We're going to be saying this every day. Election day is just, well, today it's 15 days away, and the presidential candidates are pushing hard to pick up any voters that remain uncommitted. At this hour, former President Donald Trump is speaking at a rally in Greenville, North Carolina. He's at Minges Coliseum on the campus of East Carolina University. It's his 7th visit to the Tar Heel state since late July. Earlier today, Vice President Kamala Harris targeted undecided independents and moderate Republicans in Pennsylvania. She's been campaigning today with former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. But is either candidate striking the right message with those critical swing voters? Here to tell us what their respective sides are seeing are former Trump campaign advisor Steve Cortes and Democratic pollster strategist and CEO of Cooperman Research, Carly Cooperman. Carly, I'm going to give this to you first because you wrote an op-ed in The Hill today, and it's about the swing state voters who you believe are really the ones who will decide this particular election. And what did your research show you about these voters who, with just over 2 weeks to go, have not made up their mind?
Yeah, that's right. We were looking at voters who say that they're either undecided right now or that they could change their mind in the election. And what we found is that while Harris has a small advantage with these voters, 34% to 29%, we also found that Donald Trump leads on who is more trusted to take on the issues that are most important to these voters, largely the economy and immigration. And so what you're seeing here is this general that's a little bit more for Harris than for Trump, but that this uneasiness, this uncertainty about what Harris stands for, that they're trying, that she's got to overcome with these voters as they right now feel like they trust Trump more on the issues that are important to them.
Well, here are the issues: economy, and for just about each one except for abortion, Donald Trump, in some cases, it's a little bit of a squeaker, but with immigration, he's way out in front. Economy, taxes, immigration, crime, he's the one who leads. Steve, if we can flip it to battleground state polls, again, he looks like he is either it's with a slight lead or more than a slight lead. But I want everybody to look at North Carolina. He's at 48.5%. She's at 47.5%. He has been multiple times to the Tar Heel state. That has been a red state for a long time. How is this suddenly somewhat in play for Harris?
Well, you know, Liz, it's a lot like Georgia. They are southern states that have changed. They've changed a lot demographically. A lot of folks have come from your neck of the woods, from New York, and they brought the politics with them when they moved to Atlanta and Charlotte. So those two states are different from the rest of the South in that they are both swing states, and both very much in play. Now, having said that, to your point and what you just showed there on the screen, President Trump does have a lead in both of those states if we look at the Real Clear Politics average of polling. It's not a commanding lead. These states are tight. We're going to have to fight all the way to the finish line. And as you mentioned, we're now almost 2 weeks out, 2 weeks and a day out. By the way, I think a lot of folks in those battleground states, Liz, they're going to be very happy when this election is over because they are being inundated with political advertisements, texts, phone calls, door knocks. So I feel badly almost for the people of places like North Carolina and Georgia. But it's almost over, folks. And we're going to send, in my opinion, we're going to send Donald Trump back in both to secure the border and to restore the American economy.
Well, how sure is that, Carly? I mean, from what you have seen, there is always that chance, especially if you get out the woman vote. But again, 50% men, he leads with men. So what is going to be this tiebreaker?
Yeah, I don't think anybody can be sure of what's going to happen right now. I do think the advantage that Harris has with her is, one, women, to your point. Women turn out more than men, and she has a tremendous lead with women compared to where Trump's support is, even greater than the support that Trump has with men. The other thing I would argue is that Trump's support has been strong and solid throughout the entire duration of this campaign. However, I think there's an opportunity for a ceiling for Harris that is higher because the fact that she is less well known to voters, it gives her a chance to persuade them in these final 2 weeks of the campaign.
Let's talk about money, Steve. She has outraised him. In just the last month, new figures show that she raised about $221.8 million compared to Trump's $63 million. If you had that kind of money, how would you deploy it for Donald Trump?
Well, Liz, first let me say, I'm not surprised that she's vastly outraised Trump. We anticipated this because she is the candidate of big business and the candidate of the ruling class and the oligarchs, particularly big tech, big pharma, big media. So I'm not surprised. We are the candidate of the little guy. Now, in terms of the resources, though, we do have enough resources to win this race. And what's the best place to deploy resources? I think it's primarily in social media. I think from here on, that is the best way to reach voters in these closing days. And believe it or not, what I'm finding in my polling and as well as in focus groups is that the voters who haven't decided yet probably aren't going to be moved on issues. We'd like to think that they would, but most people who are just making their determination based on issues, they have already decided. Many of them, in fact, have already voted early in these states. It's going to be more about trust, about how they feel about the candidates. It's more emotive from here forward. And on that score, I think the most effective way for Trump to earn their votes is not so much talking about his platform, although that's important, but really talking about the lack of authenticity on the Kamala Harris side. I think that is the most effective strategy in these closing 2 weeks.
Carly, if you look at the opportunity for the youth vote, well, Gen X, Y, Zers, the Harris campaign this weekend coming out with Usher and Lizzo. They're bringing out A-list celebrities that would probably speak more to the younger trending group. Is that going to nab some of these people or at least energize them to get to the polls?
I think everything helps. These young voters are both frustrated with what's going on. They don't have the context in terms of as many years of politics and campaigns that older voters have who are more reliable voters, but they know that they're frustrated with a lot of economic challenges, and also they care a lot about the climate and abortion rights and things that are the strengths of Kamala Harris's campaign. And so she absolutely has an opportunity to make inroads with them. And there's a tremendous amount of money on the Harris campaign side that's being put down to get out the vote, to the grassroots effort. And I would not overlook the strength and the advantage that Harris has with that money.
You know, from the money on the Harris side, and Steve, the belief that Donald Trump is the one who rates better on so many issues, it is amazing that this is as tight a race as it is. Quickly.
Yeah. No, listen, we are a highly divided country. One thing I'd point out on the youth vote, though, that's fascinating is the gender gap there is even more stark than it is among older men and women. In other words, young men are trending very hard to the right, young women to the left, which is an interesting phenomenon. Now we'll see who shows up, which one of them gets to the polls in greater numbers. We'll find out in 2 weeks.